He is miles away from me, yet it feels like an invisible thread tightly connects us. His voice pierces through the distance, echoing in my mind and making me unable to forget. But when I finally have the chance to bring him to my side, all I am left with is the harsh reality he can only stay for a moment, while I have to face the dangers ahead alone. Chapter 30. 𝐊𝐢's mind reeled as Lucas' voice echoed in her head, defying the vast distance between them. Their bond, a mystical connection that transcended physical boundaries, pulsed with an urgent, fiery energy. 𝐊𝐢? Kate inquired, her magical aura shimmering faintly as she released 𝐊𝐢's lips. It's my mail, 𝐊𝐢 stammered, her voice thick with emotion. Kate's eyes lit up with excitement, her innate magical abilities sensing an opportunity. I can bring him here if you'd like, but only for a few minutes, she offered, her voice tinged with both caution and eagerness. 𝐊𝐢 hesitated, her impulsive nature warring with her protective instincts. You don't know what he looks like, though, 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐼, she pointed out, her guilt over leaving without a proper good by knowing her conscience. But you do, Kate urged, her voice filled with determination. Give me your hands. They'll bring him right this instant. I need you, 𝐊𝐢. Lucas' voice, laden with desperation and fear, pierced through 𝐊𝐢's defenses. The raw emotion in his tone was unlike anything she had ever heard from him before, and it struck her to her core. She felt a pang of remorse, realizing the depth of pain her abrupt departure had caused. 𝐊𝐢, her fingers twitched involuntarily, yearning for Lucas' touch. His gaze, his mere presence, the bond between them, forged through shared experiences and mutual understanding, pulled at her with an almost physical force. Please, sweetheart, come back. Without further hesitation, 𝐊𝐢 thrust her hands into Kate's, her eyes locking with her friend's. Do it. Bring him here, even if it's just for a minute. Her voice trembling with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Close your eyes this time and imagine your mail as clearly as you can, Kate instructed, her magical energy beginning to swirl around them. 𝐊𝐢 complied, shutting her eyes tightly. Kate's whispered incantation, in a language unknown to 𝐊𝐢, flowed like a swift stream. In her mind's eye, 𝐊𝐢 conjured every detail of Lucas' face, the slope of his nose, the paleness of his skin, the mesmerizing blue of his eyes. She recalled the feeling of his skin against hers, his breath on her cheeks, the way their bodies seemed to meld together perfectly. Every moment they had shared flashed through her mind. Their time in the north, his unwavering support during her heat, their first meeting, their dance in the forest, the day she reunited with slain man, their first kiss, and even their arguments. The realization of how much they had experienced together, and how patient and understanding Luca had been through it all, sent a jolt of guilt through 𝐊𝐢's heart. As emotions swirled within her, 𝐊𝐢 suddenly heard a familiar voice. 𝐊𝐢. Her eyes flew open, and there he was, Luca, standing before her in all his suited glory. Without a moment's hesitation, 𝐊𝐢 launched herself into his arms, her body colliding with his as she wrapped her arms around his waist. Lucas' embrace was immediate and fierce, holding her tighter than ever before. The moment their bodies connected, a cascade of sparks seemed to ignite, warmth and contentment spreading through 𝐊𝐢's entire being. In that instant, despite the circumstances that had driven them apart, 𝐊𝐢 felt like she had finally come home. 𝐊𝐢, how am I here? The witch. She brought you here. I spoke quickly, unable to fathom that Luca was actually in front of me. But she won't be able to keep you here for too long. Where's here? Are we in the north? It seems a bit too dark. We're in the outskirts. 𝐊𝐲. I pulled away, only to look up at him. Please don't ask how. I'd just like to be with you before tomorrow. He paused, letting out a short breath. 𝐊𝐢, you're driving me absolutely insane. I know, and I'm sorry, but you have to understand that I'm doing this to keep you safe. Luca, Even if you're the king, who's to say they wouldn't kill you just because I'm with you? He opened his mouth to protest, but I shook my head. Luca, they murdered an entire kingdom just so that their daughter could wed you. They have no pride. He swallowed, looking down at me. I'm not going to agree with you. Leela, I would never agree to anything that keeps you away from me. He looked so angry, so torn between two choices. Keeping me beside him and risking the entire castle's life, or keeping me in the outskirts risking my own. His entire body was stiff and uncomfortable, but he still managed to keep me warm and feeling safe. How do you do it so easily? Do what so easily? I asked, hands sliding off his body. Choose to die so everybody else doesn't. My lips parted, taken aback by his question. How did I do it so easily? I mean, I knew I was impulsive. I knew that most of the decisions I made were not thought of properly. Rather, they were things I did on a whim. But to risk my life for others, how did I do it so easily? I knew for a fact that 6 years ago, I wouldn't have made such a decision so easily. But after the war had struck, I had become a rather selfless person. Someone that didn't mind starving if it meant I saw my seniors well fed. Someone that didn't care if she lost a limb just so that another would have one. I guess I began, gulping. I guess I know how it feels to lose someone you love. To have someone you cherish ripped away from you so violently you can't even react. My throat tightened, emotions rushing up my breath. I don't ever want anybody to feel the way I felt when I lost my mom. Ever. His eyes softened the smallest of ways, though his anger was still very, very apparent. He cupped my cheek with one of his hands and instinctively, my hand wrapped around his wrist, with his eyes persistently staring into my own. He spoke. I love you for that. A gasp left my lips, just as he leaned down, lips a centimeter away from mine. His warmth left my pores. His eyes, in all their bluish beauty, disappeared and his skin vanished into thin air like dust from us and dune flying into the atmosphere. I stood still, hand still raised from holding his wrist, in silence. He said he loved me and faded. The strings of my heart pulled, forcing my lips to waver. A hand squeezed my shoulder. I'm sorry. Leela, Kate croaked. I couldn't keep him there any longer. With Luca. I forgot she was there. With Luca, only him and I existed. I love you too. Suddenly, I wished I said it back. I turned around, each step echoing through the 4 walls of her home, and wrapped my arms around Kate. Deeply, I desired comfort and stability, but this world was throwing me into a wormhole of inconvenience and discomfort. It was slamming my heart into a table of knives repeatedly, as if telling me I was not meant for normality. A tear left my eyes, wetting the thin fabric of Kate's long-sleeved shirt. Surprisingly, her arms slid around me and rubbed my back. He loves you. I know which I know. I whimpered. I love him too. But you better make it out alive to say it back to him. I will. I will. Kate remained silent. I concluded it was one of the things I liked about her. That she didn't talk too much, that she didn't give me too much hope. She was blunt, sometimes awfully so. But it helped. In the end, it helped relieve the pain even if it was in the smallest of ways. I will make it out alive. I thought to myself. For Luca, I will make it out alive. Chapter 3. I woke up feeling heavy and cold. No cover laid above me to shield my body from the freezing temperatures of the outskirts, and my leather armor was beginning to suffocate me because of how long it stayed in it. It was not a great start of the day considering just how important today was. Groaning, I pulled myself off the couch. It was only then I realized I was shivering. I brought my hands to my lips and blew hot air into them, hoping to warm myself up. I was just about to wake you. Girl. Kate walked out of her room holding a steaming mug. Made this so you wouldn't complain about the cold. When did it get this cold here? I asked, grabbing the warm mug from her hands. You're forgetting that it's still March. Summer hasn't approached us yet, she answered. Plus, I live in the north of the outskirts. The weather here is unpredictable. I nodded while taking a sip of the drink. My taste buds were saturated in a sweetness so warm it forced a tremor to run down my spine. Hot chocolate. Made by a witch. Never did I think I would be drinking such a thing, but I wasn't complaining because it tasted so good. Could I please have the recipe for this? I tapped my finger onto the mug. Please. Kate rose her brow. Why? A blush settled atop my cheeks. No way was I going to tell her I wanted to make the exact same drink for Luca. Not after I cried on her shoulder yesterday night. My pride could only take so much. It's for your may listen to it. My body stilled. Shit. I gulped no. Kate cackled. You make a horrible lair. Isn't that a good quality? It's a quality that can get you in a lot of trouble in some situations. She placed her mug on the table and slid mine from my own hands. But the only situation we should be worrying about today is capturing that monster that I didn't finish my hot chocolate. They'll make you 5 cups if you complete your mission. Kate assured. Now get off your arse and grab your weapons. We have a lot of work we need to do. We were 23 minutes away from Kate's house. I knew because I was counting every footstep we took further from the warm cottage. It was a foreign feeling being back in the outskirts, this time actively and purposefully looking for a monster to murder. I was scared, but I was entirely confident in my skills to defend myself. Rather, I just happened to be there with 2 swords extending from my dagger strapped to one thigh. The trees seemed to have grown taller to their leaves darkened than before. A deep violet. They were, and their bark an even darker shade of purple. Today was a good day. There were only a few monsters roaming the grounds. We stalked past the ones that were too large and ran past the ones that were too small. We needed to find a subject that was the same size as us, particularly one with 4 limbs instead of 7 rising from its ribs. It would help ensure that we could actually capture a monster's soul. Are you excited? Kate asked, bumping her delicate shoulder with mine. I shrugged. I just really want to get it over with so we can have a plan. You know, so I can stop feeling like I'm passing through every day like someone's about to slit my throat. We all feel that way at one point in our lives. I shook my head, a sadistic smile rising to my lips. Tell me about it. Your male seems to be quite the softie when it comes to you. I know. I took you for a female that likes warriors. Her brows rose in surprise. Luca is a warrior. I assure you. I said, but 𝐿𝐤 is a warrior with a heart of gold. He may seem like a lion, but really is 𝐿𝐤 is a bear. Adorable. Fine, oh. He hates me when I call him cute. Kate cackled. Men don't want to be cute to their females. Darling, they want to be the lions, even when they don't usually seem like it. An O formed in my lips, but Luca always takes his time with me. 𝐿𝐤 admitted several times that he likes being babbied by me. Has he? A knowing look came on her face. Well, I'm sure on the inside. He really just wants to grab you by the throat and make him yours. Girl, my cheeks reddened. Kate, when it comes to their females, all males share one thing in common. Their desire for both pups and pleasure. Can we please change the subject? Well, it is my duty to not only follow your command, but also to guide you. Owner of my soul, eyes and my face. Evoking a feminine cackle out of Kate. Goddess, I didn't know whether to envy her lack of shame when discussing such a topic with a dump-trucked virgin like me or shame her for it. There we go. Your change of subject. Kate pointed at a monster in the distance. Remember, it'll only help if you're on the verge of death. I snorted. You'll help me when I ask you to, and your pride will stop you from doing so. It would be considered lying if I disagreed to that. The creature was 7 foot tall, as close to human as I was going to get in a place like the Banished Lands. Instead of skin, it had spiky scales the color of navy green. Its waist was small, so small I could engulf the entire thing with 1 hand and a half, and its face was pulled into its head. Ugly, I thought to myself. With light steps, I jogged to the tree nearest to it. I didn't know whether or not the creature could see me. I didn't know if it was blind. For goddess's sake. I didn't know if it could shoot beams of fire out of its hands. All I knew was that I had my sword, my will of steel, and my towering pride that refused me the ability to back out. Swallowing my fear down, I stomped my foot onto the soil covered in dry leaves. The sound of the dry leaves crunching under my feet echoed throughout the silence of the forest, like glass shattering in the middle of a silent hall. The monster snapped its head to me, eyelids sliding open like an eagle's. My breathing stopped. It had been days since I fought. Nervousness settled within me, but excitement awakened as well. It roared like 1,000 crows screaming, and I slid my dagger out of my thigh with whiplash speed. "Rise, beast," I chanted. It followed my command. The creature ran towards me, quaking the earth. I harnessed all the energy I could in my body and took a deep breath, shutting my eyes. "You can do this." Without a second thought, I pulled my fist back and slammed it into the beast's face. It flew backwards, its body crashing into a nearby tree. It was heavy, so heavy I felt some bones in my fist crack underneath its weight. Wincing, I ran towards the creature and kicked it in the neck, further weakening it. It wrapped its coil-like fingers around my ankle and pulled. But this time, I expected it. Gracefully, I landed on my bum and rolled backwards, my cape flying in the wind. Just as it was about to stand, I aimed my dagger at its hand and threw it. It stabbed through the creature's palm into the tree, forcing whatever the creature was to scream even louder. Like a true beast, it ripped its arm off of its body and stood, towering over me by a solid 2 feet. I watched in shock as his ripped limb reattached itself to its arm, each particle rising and gluing itself onto the arm I cut off. What the fuck? All that work for nothing. The beast galloped towards me so robustly the ground shook, mimicking the motions of an earthquake. Just as it was about to slam into me, I lunged out of its way and jumped onto its back. I was so close, about to puncture the back of its neck with my bare teeth, but it had to stumble on its feet. Screaming, the beast fell backwards. My breath stopped immediately. I knew my ribs would break underneath its weight. I knew I would suffocate beneath its wretched body. I knew pain would engulf my entire being. Just as I was about to land a hair strand away from the soil, I prayed. I prayed to the moon goddess that I wouldn't experience the pain similar to the one I went through in my previous fight. I prayed so strongly I forgot how to think, how to speak, how to function. It didn't work. My entire body burned. My ability to breathe vanished. I was drizzled with diesel and thrown into fire. I cried out in pain as I attempted to move my arm, but it wouldn't work. Physically, I 𝐾𝐤𝐬 move it. My elbow was bent in a direction I 𝐾𝐤𝐬 recall. It was bleeding profoundly black and blue, coating its skin. The entire world was spinning. The entire world was blurry. Using my other hand, I slid my sword from my back and punctured the creature in the neck. Goddess, I wished I could have killed it. I wished I could have stabbed the monster in the back so strongly my sword came out the other end of its body. I wished to hurt it so badly it didn't live to see another day. I moaned in pain as the monster fell limp above me, tears rushing down my eyes, not at the sadness of my situation, but rather the pain. Like getting hit in the nose. It rolled off me, and immediately, I crawled away from it in a Kate's direction. You should have asked me to help. Girl, little bitch, girl. I coughed out a handful of blood. You didn't need to. I did it. I wheezed and dropped to the ground, a hand laying above my several broken ribs. Goddess, the pain was so bad. Above that, I 𝐿 move one of my arms. Not even in centimeter. Ugh. I began shivering at the overload of hurt. Kate, did it work? Nausea rushed up my throat, forcing an array of drush through me. I lurched forward and vomited a mixture of blood and gore. My entire chest exploded with a fire so blazing I felt my muscles twitch and turn. Nothing felt right. Nothing in me felt like it was in place. I don't know it. You tell me, with all the strength I could muster up. I lifted my head and gasped. The creature stood there, facing me in all its monstrosity, as still as the bark of a tree. I couldn't see it breathe, nor could I witness it blink. It just remained still, completely unmoving. What a wave of dizziness crashed through me as I spoke. "What is it doing?" Kate frowned. "I'm afraid I don't know," wiping at my lips. I stood up, stumbling forward but successfully regaining whatever balance I had left in me. I walked towards it so we were an inch away from one another, the only thing separating us being my fear of whatever it would do to me if I got any closer. Why wasn't it moving? Why was it looking at me so solidly, like I was a rock that showed it a map? I gulped and turned my face to look at Kate. "If it advances," I croaked, "kill it." She nodded and snapped her fingers, a violet strand of light rising from her palm and circling her hand. I faced the monster head on and spoke. "On your knees," I ordered, but it came out more like a plea. "Please, please work. Goddess, all I ask of you is to make this work. I am a loyal servant. I will forever abide by you if this works." The monster took a step back. My bloody lips parted. To my complete surprise, the monster fell to its knees, head bowing in submission to me, as if waiting for another command, as if waiting for me to guide it. Relief flooded my body, relief so powerful I almost wailed like a banshee. But all my muscles were able to handle were a few tears strolling down my swollen cheeks. Unable to hold myself up anymore, I crashed to the ground, eyes falling shut. The monster roared at my dismay. It was a sign. I was going to build my army. I was going to win the war, no matter how long it took. The more I watched the monster bow down to me, the more I analyzed the way its neck swayed in soreness at the discomfort of its position. I knew I was going to fulfill the prophecy. I knew why I was chosen. I knew why the goddess wanted me to carry out her plan to annihilate the queen of all witches. Because I was 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐬. I was the girl who was raised in the outskirts. The girl who woke up to the sound of roaring and slept to the feel of broken bones. The girl whose home was not only the north, rather also a place so dark not even light could surpass it. I was 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐬, queen of all 5 kingdoms, the north, the south, the east, the west, and last but certainly not least, queen of the outskirts. Chapter 34. I ordered the monster to capture 10 more souls using my dagger. It answered me, even bowed before running back into the woods, my weapon in its wretched hands. 3 hours passed since I commanded it and it still hadn't returned, so my anxiety did instead. What if it didn't do it? What if it was lying? What if it was intelligent enough to defy me? So many what ifs but so little answers. I hated it. "You're doing it again." Kate snapped her fingers in my face. "You're too injured to be overthinking like this." I looked down at my 𝐾𝐶𝐬 arm, then back at her, and shrugged. "You're never to anything to overthink. You just do. I still don't understand why you didn't command me to help. How prideful can you be? Honestly, you could have helped either way. You know, I don't have to command you to do everything." I groaned as I sat straighter on the couch. "So this, all of it, could have been avoided if you helped." She gasped, offended. Of course, I didn't think it was her fault. I just wanted her reaction to take my mind off whatever the creature was doing at that moment. Kate swatted me across the boob, forcing a hiss out of me. "I may detest the fact that you own my soul, and I may have almost murdered your dearest friend, but that does not mean I would let you die." My head snapped to hers. "And why is that?" She let out a short breath. "You keep me company. I haven't had proper company in the last 18 years. It was always either me faking a new personality or me alone in my cabin." I frowned. Can't witches be friends? Witches are bitches. I don't blame them. Though, she sat next to me and sighed. The queen holds too much at stake for them. So it's best they don't maintain relationships or she will use us against each other's. You know. A casual "I will kill your best friend if you don't give me your left limb" kind of threat. Very casual. My stomach growled loudly, louder than I had ever heard it boast, and I blushed, smiling sheepishly. A hot chocolate. Kate jumped from the couch, holding her long skirt with her, and scattered to her small wooden kitchen. "I'll make you some chicken soup and hot chocolate." I grimaced. "Do you really think that's the greatest combination, Kate? Trust me, it's what I always have on days like this." Days like this? I thought to myself, does everyone have days like this? I sighed and snuggled deeper into the calfskin couch, finding an odd comfort within its seasoned leather and countless dents. Counting the scratches on the couch took my mind off my injured hand, and healing broken ribs, it took my mind off the fact that Kate put a spell on me to heal me. It took my mind off a lot. Not Luca, though. Nothing could take my mind off Luca. Not even the fall of the earth. He said he loved me. Did he mean he loved me for being selfless? Or just that he loved my whole? Did he mean he only loved me at that moment when I was slipping from his fingers, or did he mean he loved me the minute he laid eyes on me? And I love you for that. I love you too. Oh, how I wished I said it back. Oh, how I wished I could have seen his face when I returned the gesture. Maybe, if I linked him with all my power, he would get my message. But would that be smart? To use my power in such a state? The sound of a tray being set on the table forced me out of my thoughts. "Here you go." Kate sat on the armchair opposite of me, grabbing a book from the bookshelf behind her. "Eat up. It's best when it's hot." With all the strength in my body, I sat up, letting out a line of winces and grunts. The soup was wonderful, as was the hot chocolate, but I wasn't able to enjoy them because my mind continuously traveled to thoughts of the queen. What if a witch saw what I looked like and I didn't know? What if the queen of witches already knew what I looked like but wanted to play with me? The puppet and the puppet master. What if I was already being played with? My eyes snapped to the window at the rush of anxiety that swept through me. Birds. Birds. The sound and existence of a bird means in not being played with. To my luck, a beautiful black crow landed on the branch of the tree right outside Kate's cabin. Relief flooded my being and I fell back. Body landed on the soft leather. Leela. Kate scolded. "Stop stressing." How could I not? Kate. I looked down, fiddling with my fingers. How can I not stress at the possibility that I may be living at the hands of a monster? That I may not even be living in the real world? Kate pursed her lips. "I have an idea." My eyes shifted to face hers. "How about we get you a pet? Something that would remind you that you are in control of your own thoughts." My brows rose. Like a bird? Exactly. Kate stood and grabbed a masquerade mask that laid on her bookshelf. "Put this on. We don't want anybody seeing that face of yours." Ouch, ouch, ouch. I held an offended hand to my heart. "Get up already. It'll be waiting outside for you. I have to glamour the house so that monsters can't see us." And Kate was off. I shook my head, smiling as I put the mask on. It covered the top of my head beautifully and matched my armor, so I was complaining. Sadly, it took me about 4 minutes just to limp out of the house with my avalanche of broken bones. But I made it. That's all that mattered. That I made it and I was outside. The view was quite offsetting, though. Kate stood still, arms spread forward as she whispered words in a language I didn't understand. "Done. Only your animal can see us." Her arms dropped and she turned to face me. "Now, what creature would you like? A bird? What kind of bird?" "Girl." I paused. Birds. There were so many. Peacocks, seagulls, parrots, even woodpeckers. But which one would I want? Which bird would be my teller of truth? My key to reality? Suddenly, an idea popped into my head. "An eagle," I said. "One with wings longer than my arms and a beak stronger than stone." Her eyes shone. "Good choice. How are you going to get one?" "It'll set a trap." "Fear not. Though, it works in mere minutes. It will attract whatever image you have in your head and bind it to your soul." Kate held her hands out. "Now give me your hands." Again. "Yes, brat." I uncrossed my arms and placed my hands into hers. A fat frown on my face. "Now close your eyes and envision your eagle." its feathers swiveling out of its body at the speed it flies, the strength of its beak, even the length of its wings. I did as she asked and slid my eyes shut. In my head, I painted an image even 𝐿𝐲𝐻 would have been proud of. Maybe all that overthinking helped me. Maybe all those scenes I envisioned in my head of the queen which sticking her arms into my heart and serving it to her monsters for dinner helped me become more artistic. The sound of the leaves quivering forced my eyes to open. "It heard your call," Kate whispered, hands leaving mine. I gulped and looked into the distance. Nothing but the leaves swaying and brushing against each other in the trees. A gush of wind rushed past us, forcing Kate and I to stumble backwards. My fists clenched. "Where are you?" I thought. "Do you see me?" Another gush of wind slammed into us, making it difficult to maintain balance. I dug my foot into the soil. "Come to me." A screeching whistle sounded throughout the entirety of the woods, shattering the glass windows of Kate's cabin and forcing a ring out of both my ears. I forced myself to look up. Despite being heavily dizzy and injured, the eagle arrived, in all its glory. It flew past us and bent the trees. It sliced through the like a piece of paper and turned around swiftly, making its way back to Kate and me. Glorious creature, isn't it? Kate let out a sound of awe. "I'm not going to disagree," I said, watching as the eagle landed on a branch standing right next to my little black crow. I limped towards it, maintaining eye contact the best I could and held out my arm. "Vi," I named it after my mother. "Come to me." The eagle was stunning, nothing short of a phoenix's. It leaned forward, eyes on mine, before placing one heavy foot on my uninjured hand. It made its way up my arm and rested in my shoulders, grip on them solid and stable. I loved it, the way it held me, the way it promised me its loyalty and unending power. My heart's 𝐿𝐲𝐷 as our souls bound like a rope had tied itself around the falling organ. The second I turned around to face Kate, the ground shook, alerting both the eagle and I. Kate remained unfazed. In fact, she was smiling brightly, all the anxiety for nothing. She gestured for me to come to her. "Come on." My brows furrowed as I walked towards her and turned around. I gasped. There stood the monster I quarreled with that morning, my dagger in his hand. He wasn't alone, though. He had 10 other monsters, 4 of which were much bigger than he, standing behind him, waiting for their next command from me. A proud smile engulfed my lips. I slid my swords out of my bag and walked to the monster I first captured, handing both to him. Bowing, it took the sword from me and stepped back, almost as though it knew what I was going to ask it. "Capture 40 more monsters. Make sure that this time, they're all like you." At my words, the creature almost smiled, but honestly, I couldn't tell. That would take quite a while. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐲𝐿𝐲, Kate warned. "That's the point." I turned to face her, eagle on my shoulders. "My male's birthday is after tomorrow. Oh, Luca, do I have a surprise for you?" I thought to myself. Chapter 35. 2 days had passed and my monsters collected 8 more of their kind. It was comforting calling them my monsters. Luca did warn me that my Luna complex would set the more time passed, but I didn't it would be this robust. That every action done for me would boost my ego to such an extent. Kate refused to transport me to the castle for Luca's birthday despite my monsters needing at least 6 more days to capture the 30 rest of my order. So currently, I was trying to figure out a way to sneak out of her home without her noticing. I knew I could have ordered her to send me there, but spending 4 full days with her and drinking her signature hot chocolate 5 times in my entire stay made me think otherwise. The order almost came out. Though, almost. Silently, I tied my mask to my face and stepped out of the cabin. I wasn't going to risk exposing my face to some witch. I already had nightmares of their queen enough. Vi was resting on the branch next to the crow, though her head snapped to mine the minute she heard my feet crunch the dry leaves of the outskirts soil. I patted my shoulders and gracefully. She flew off the branch and onto me. I concluded that it would take time getting used to such a powerful creature resting on my body, but I wasn't complaining. An eagle was such an ego booster and, honestly, at such a time, I would have preferred to be feared by strangers rather than approached by, more specifically, feared by the West and the witches. The worst part about leaving the outskirts was that there was no direct exit. The only way out was to follow the path of the moon, and even then, you never knew where you would end up. The West, the North, the East, or even the South. Praying I didn't end up somewhere in the West. I began my journey. The trees of the banished lands had leaves so thick they covered the light of the moon like a blanket. But luckily, I was used to it. The little strands of light shining through the bent branches were enough to guide me. As an hour passed, 𝐴𝐴 decided to fly above me. I didn't mind. Watching her swivel in the atmosphere was therapeutic and even eased my anxiety when I'd find a witch coven hidden deep within the torrent of trees. 𝐿𝐲 was smart. So smart she would screech whenever a monster was near, forcing their attention to shift from me to her graceful power. 3 hours later, we reached the exit. The sharp line separating green soil from purple soil. A sight forced a sigh of relief out of me, allowed my shoulders to slump and my anxiety to lessen. We're here. 𝐴𝐴, I let out, chest heaving. We're here. She came back to me and wrapped her coil, like feet around the bone of my shoulders. The second I stepped foot onto the bright-colored soil, my soul felt light. A smile made its way to my lips as I brought my other foot out of the dark, until my entire body stood underneath green grass. It wasn't until a growl struck my eardrums that my smile vanished. Who are you and why do you step onto Western soil unauthorized? My head snapped to the tall man who spoke. It just had to be Western soil, didn't it? Sighing, I spun to face him only to be slammed with knives of nostalgia. He looked so familiar, so familiar. It felt like I had known him, even harbored feelings of intimacy towards him, towards a man that was 𝐊𝐲𝐽. His name was at the tip of my tongue, but I just couldn't remember it. I swallowed down my sentimentality. I'm on my way to the royal castle. I just happened to stumble on Western soil. You must understand the outskirts have no map. Their grounds move as they please. The long-haired man tilted his head, a look of doubt on his face. The West has cut off all ties with the 3 kingdoms and the royal family. You cannot visit the castle even if I let you pass. My face faltered. Why would you do such a thing? He shrugged, long blonde hair bouncing on his ample shoulders. Us Westerners are just as confused as you are. We've been ordered to remain in our homes. Only those employed by the castle as warriors or guards can leave. What has the king said about all this? Flashbacks of the Western king's shocked face when his daughter's lies were uncovered rushed to my head. What has he said about all this? His brows furrowed. Haven't you heard? I shook my head, lips frowning. He passed away of a heart attack 4 days ago. He looked down, hair shielding his Western facial features. After that, chaos struck our kingdom and yours. My brows furrowed. How do you know where I am from? Sincerely tan skin, thick brows, strong nose, you are the embodiment of northern beauty. I don't know why you're covering yourself with that awful mask. Though which though? My cheeks reddened at his words. None of the Western citizens sanctioned the attack. The Queen sent rockets to your kingdom on her own accord. That who are? He placed one rough hand to my lips, the other palming the back of my head, ultimately choosing me and invading my personal space. I went to knee him in the crotch, but he was quick to react, moving his hand from the back of my head to grab my knee. The Queen has glamour-ed the kingdom. Anybody that speaks ill of her is immediately struck with 7 bolts of lightning. He merely lifted his hand from my lips. I highly suggest you refrain from completing that word. I pushed him off me and wiped at my lips, blushing furiously. You could have been a bit more melodious with that. You almost took out my front teeth. Your welcome would be nice. My eyes snapped to his and I glared as furiously as I could, cheeks still a deep red. I'd rather ask if you know any other way I could reach the castle. Not before you tell me why you're wearing that mask. I huffed, a hair or 2 flying out of my face. That is none of your business. Then you'll be on your own. You wouldn't even understand. If you think you're ugly. I'm sure it's not that. Suddenly, I wished Luca and his infuriating jealousy were there. My eyes scanned the vast lands of the West for any witches before sighing. I rose my hands and untied my hair to fall forward gracefully. The sun kissed the tan of my skin beautifully. As I stood there, underneath the sun of the West, I wished our kingdoms weren't so divided. This place would make for a great honeymoon. I thought to myself, wow, with a sacked jaw. The man bowed. Apologies for my rudeness. The name's Giovanni, but you can call me Gio. I gasped, hand flying to my lips. 𝐿𝐤𝐪. The man I had a crush on when I was too young to be thinking of love. The man who stole the heart of Luca's first lover. The man whose hair that outshone the sun in the essence of the morning. He used to work in the north. I was excited and I didn't know why. I used to watch you train with my father every day. Who is your father? He's tilted his head. And yes, I was deployed in the north for 2 years 8 years ago. Who is your father? Kate warned me against uncovering my identity to anyone that wasn't my family. And though I did defy her by leaving the outskirts, I was going to go against her word when it came to my safety. I'd rather not say. He rose an attractive brow and eyes where I had to look down to stop myself from squealing. If you're so against speaking of yourself, at least tell me why you're wearing that ridiculous mask. I fear a witch will keep my face ingrained in her thoughts. Did you know they could bring you to them as they please, so long as they know what you look like? You are theirs and theirs only? Oh, trust me. I do. He pointed to a tower the color of midnight behind him. That right there is a witch coven. What? I rushed to put my mask back on. Why in the world do witches reside on your grounds? I ask myself that every day. He sighed. Rumor has it that our queen is doing all this in favor of some witch queen. Concentrated confusion rushed up my veins as I questioned the queen's motives. Why would she work with witches? I asked, baffled. They say the queen of witches promised our kingdom prosperity and power if we allowed them to cover our capital with purple soil. He noticed the way my eyes bulged and furrowed his brows. What? A little dirt in exchange of power is a great deal. I pinched the top of my nose, thoroughly frustrated with the queen's idiocy and volatility. There was a high chance that she was the cause of her husband's death. Upon that, she struck a deal with witches, the moon's most manipulative children, in hopes of gaining coin and wealth. Witches? Who in the world struck deals with witches they had no control over? Can I have your name? No, I let my hand fall. No, you may not. He frowned. Why is that? A witch may force my image out of your mind if you know who I am. What in the world are you talking about? Let's say my name is 𝐿𝐤𝐪'𝐬. I began. And the witch who despises me and wants my head on a stick asks you if you've ever met a girl named 𝐿𝐤𝐪'𝐬. If you know my name is 𝐿𝐤𝐪'𝐬, the witch can ask you what I look like and steal your memory of me. She will then know what I look like. If she knows what I look like, she can make me her lapdog and, for story's sake, finally slice my head off and put it on a stick. Can't I lie? She will know whether or not you are lying. I assured. Oh, indeed. That's all it takes. That is all it takes. I should invest in a mask. Then, Schultentai. You really should. A comfortable silence accompanied us after that. Gio ran a stressed hand through his golden locks of long hair, and I watched in sheer impressiveness as each strand went back into place, resting contentedly upon his broad shoulders. He was an attractive man, and I must admit, I was proud of myself for having such exquisite taste. However, he was not nearly as attractive as Luca. How long did it take you to grow your hair? I asked, willing to ease the visible anxiety on his front. 1 year and 8 months. I pursed my lips. It looks nice. His lips rose to one side. I appreciate the compliment knowing it comes from you. Though may I ask why you want to visit the castle? My lips parted as Luca's beautiful smile came to my thoughts. My mate's birthday is today. I'm hoping to reach him before the sun sets. A look of surprise stained his cocky expression. You're mated. I nodded, smiling at the thought of my mail, though I cowled and helped but catch the frown that slipped onto Gio's lips. Whoever he is, 𝐿𝐲𝐳 a lucky man. He sighed longingly before budging his head to the direction of the coven. Follow me then. I hope you're ready for a 2-hour-long walk. 2 hours. With heated cheeks. I snapped my eyes to his. Where are we going? The portal of the mind. Wherever you desire to go. You will go. 𝐊𝐢𝐳𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 have portals. A witch's power is boundless. I'm sure you know that considering you were willingly roaming the outskirts. He said as we walked side by side. I do. Trust me. It's just odd that any kingdom would willingly allow witches. The goddess didn't call them the devils in disguise for no reason. Guilt swarmed my chest at the thought of Kate's hot chocolate, but I pushed it aside. Also, how much ground have they covered with the purple soil? The entire capital. A look of disgust overcame his pale features. It smells of gut and rot over there. Trust me. I sighed. I know. I explained how the purple soil was a loophole that allowed outskirts monsters to survive in the blessed grounds of our earth. Furthermore, I assured him that all witches were bad unless Giovanni owned their souls. After all of that, I taught him how to capture both the soul of a monster and a witch. Giovanni explained how horribly the Western government treated them, how women were reduced to nothing but carriers and men as laborers, how only the wealthy enjoyed the beauty of the West, whereas in the East, South and North, dynasties ruled. In the West, leaders were voted into reign. It baffled me how the commoners were able to bring in who they liked to lead them, but it also worried me. Gio explained that it was a corrupt system as well, that the rich voted for whoever kept them rich and the poor voted for whoever would help them out of the gutter. Of course, the rich won. It made me absolutely detest the rulers of the kingdom. I vowed that the first woman I would kill would be the Queen of the West. As we neared the portal, an idea popped into my thoughts. Giovanni, I called out, watching as his brows rose in answer. Would you mind using this dagger when capturing the soul of the monsters too? I lifted my dagger from its place on my thigh and held it in his direction. Wouldn't that make them yours? I nodded, smiling sheepishly. That's precisely why I'm asking. He took the dagger from me, fingers brushing against the skin of my hands in the process. Almost immediately the need to wipe his touch off of my surface heightened, but I hid it from him. I didn't want to come off as rude, especially after asking him to capture monsters from me. I'm sure that, as time passes in your kingdom, the clouds above you will turn gray and your soil will turn the color of violet. The stars in your skies will disappear in at dusk. Creatures you will deem as otherworldly will appear. The witches have already claimed your capital. It is only natural that they will take 𝐊𝐲𝐻𝐬. I gestured to the dagger in his hands. You need to be prepared to raise an army, and I hope you do it with my weapon. My eyes shone, almost as though I were ordering him to use my dagger. Bright green orbs met brown pools. His lips parted and he took a quick step bow. I will. Warrior. I smiled gratefully, nodding. It'll be off now. Remember to keep your eyes shut. All right. You're going to feel nauseous if you don't. No worries. I have some experience with this. Thank you for all the information. Again, he said humbly, you've unknowingly saved thousands of lives. I rolled my eyes, flared. You think highly of me, but I won't disagree. Have a safe journey. You as well. And so I stepped into the portal. Eyes shut and cheeks red at the fact that I said you two. At least I was going to see Luca. At least I would be back in his arms, heart warmer than the sun and pulse lighter than a strand. Chapter 36. I was finally in the castle. A lonely chill went up the bend of my spine, forcing a tremor out of my bones as I stumbled straight into a cozy cobblestone corridor. Immediately, I wrapped an arm around myself, itching for warmth to grace my skin but failing to attain anything close to it. My eyes swarmed the hallway and a smile immediately made itself onto my face. It was the corridor that led to my room. The first place I was able to sleep soundly and since the war. The first place I was able to rest robustly after 6 years of insomnia, keeping my footsteps light. I jogged towards the end of the hallway where my room laid with a small smile on my face. I knew I was there to visit Luca, but something in me wanted to revisit the first place I actually felt safe in after losing Mother. Other than Luca's arms, of course. My body itched to be surrounded in the silk sheets of my bed, to feel the stone floors under the soles of my feet, and to witness the dazzling view I woke up to every other day. It would be a nice start to the day, or end of considering the sun was setting. I wrapped my hand around the handle and pulled downwards, entering my studio-like room. A cold wind rushed past me, forcing a second shiver out of me. The castle felt awfully dim that day. Despite the light of the atmosphere, things were peculiarly quiet, slow, almost like a blue lens was placed atop the eyes of whomever stepped foot into the castle. I expected a celebration, bells to ring and posters to have hung themselves up to symbolize that the King of all Wolves had lived another year to rule. That the King of all Wolves was turning a new page. That was his fucking birthday. Suddenly, I was angry. Sighing, I pushed the door shut with my bum and stomped into my room. The minute the locks clicked shut, a familiar scent rushed up my nostrils. A scent I adored with my entire soul, a scent I would die to witness every day. My room smelled of Luca. A fat smile made its way to my lips as sprinted to my bed and threw myself into the mattress. The mattress that oozed with Luca's wonderful scent and inviting warmth. I missed him so much my feet swiveled in the air. I missed him so much I fisted the silk sheets of my bed. Fi was smart to fly off my shoulders and onto the head of the couch because my weight would have crushed her. That's it, I thought. I have to see him. Stay here, please. I have a man to surprise. Without a second thought, I jumped out of the bed all giddy on the inside, and ran to the door. Just as my hand hovered above the door handle, I caught my reflection on the window. A frown made its way onto my face. I looked fine. Completely and utter fine. I didn't look gorgeous, stunning, dazzling. None of that. And I had the audacity to be mad at those who worked at the castle for doing nothing on my male's birthday. An idea popped into my head. 𝐊𝐢𝐬's design room. She left all of her old dresses in there. There had to be something I could wear, something I could impress Luca with. So I sprinted down the corridor and passed by several maids whom I left die-eyed and jaw-slacked. I was surprised they even remembered me, but decided it was best that they think I was just a fragment of their imagination. I couldn't risk any of them informing other maids that the king's female was back. Who knew? Who knew? They could have been witches as well. Suddenly, I crashed into someone that sent my body flying backwards and bum slamming to the ground. Someone with hazel brown eyes and blonde hair. Roman? The florist that Luca broke my wrist for. Leela. Roman blinked hard, making sure he was daydreaming. Leela, what are you doing here? Should. It came out aggressive as I stood up and wiped my knees. Don't use my. Nobody should know in here. Luna, what are you doing here? It's the king's birthday. That's why. I said. Tonda, why is nobody doing anything? He specifically requested that everyone not work today. He cancelled all celebrations and said he would send anybody who didn't follow his orders to the banished lands. I gasped lowly. Surprised. I don't understand why. Though, 𝐻ES overworking himself. A deep frown bestowed itself upon my lip. 𝐻ES in his office now. I asked. Roman nodded. If 𝐻ES not there, then 𝐻ES in the guard chambers. You know, your room. My heart shattered at the image of Luca sleeping alone in my sheets. Absolutely shattered. I was exaggerating the feel of my heart a bit much, but it still hurt to imagine him that way. If Roman weren't there, I probably would have burst into tears at the fact that I made Luca feel so lonely and depressed that he cancelled his birthday and decided to work instead. To work? Roman? I let out a short breath. Is there a pianist that works in this castle? We have an entire orchestra at your service. 𝐿𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 do. I expect them to be at the ballroom and are playing music so loudly it reaches the ears of the king. I rose a brow. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Mum. Will you be able to decorate the ballroom in an hour? 30 minutes will do. He smiled. I nodded, satisfied. Well then, get on with it. Forcing a smile out of me before I entered 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 workspace, being surrounded by tens of dressed, all different shades and textures made me feel fluffy inside. It also heightened my anxiety because I didn't know which one Luca would prefer. The blue one, the green one, maybe the red one. Mother always told me red was a fabulous color, so I settled with red. It still didn't help that 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 had approximately 24 dresses monochromatic ally hung beside each other's. But who was I to complain? The only thing I knew how to sew properly was a wound, and even that was something I had mastered. Most of them looked the same, ankle-length dresses that were either long-sleeved or fully exposed a woman's sharp set of collarbones. None caught my eyes. I began stressing as I watched the clock tick. I had to get my hair done, fix my face with that powder 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 always used, and gloss my lips, yet I didn't even have a dress picked out yet. However, all my stress vanished when my eyes landed on satin dress so small I feared it wouldn't fit me. It was a burgundy red and settled right at the top of one's thighs. Its straps were so thin you would think they were made of hair, and its waist was heavily cinched. The chest area was a whole other story, even tighter than the waist. Gold metal lined the top of the dress, metal that would shine with every little movement. I wanted to wear it, but I also feared that my body wouldn't look good in it. Was it too much? I mean, it had no exquisite designs splattered across it, but I was sure I could accompany the outfit with a thigh strap like 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 had given me last time and some rubies. So I put the dress on. With much difficulty my tie ad and looked into the mirror. Never had I, though I had the ability to look sexy. But this dress certainly made me feel it. It was difficult to move and always rising up whenever I would sit or bend over to fix the eyeliner surrounding my lashes. It took me a total of 49 minutes to get ready, but the end result was decent in my opinions. A short dress that stuck me like second skin. Lips so red one would think I had feasted on a deer, and hair straightened all the way to the bend of my back. I wore a thigh strap the color of gold and beautiful ruby earrings. As for the rings, I wore the ones he had gifted me when we were back in the north. I didn't know what I was going to do that night, but I knew that I wanted to look good for Luca. I knew that I wanted him to smile when he saw me, that I wanted the burden on his shoulders to lessen. Just as I clicked the straps of my heels shut, music began playing. It was the type of music that forced me to sway as I applied my lipsticks. The type of music that forced a notor to leave my lips unknowingly. As I fluffed my hair, the scent of my male rushed up my nostrils. Immediately, I stilled. 𝐾𝐞𝐬𝐃 now. That would ruin everything. I ordered those bastards to cancel the celebrations. Luca bellowed from outside. Stop the music. Now he paused. It's bad enough I can smell her. The last part was whispered, and surprisingly I heard it. Bad enough. Did he really miss me that much? Or was it that he didn't want anything to do with me after I completely abandoned him? Guilt swept through my soul. I walked into the door and laid my ears on the wood, heels clinking against the cobblestone floors. I was informed that the celebrations were back up by Roman Salvador. King, a poor maid said, nobody is allowed to attend other than you. Though, those were his instructions. Luca growled, and I could imagine the top of his lips stretching as he did. I clenched my fist, missing him with all my gut. It took a lot of strength to stop myself from bursting out of the door and wrapping my arms around him. But I had to sustain myself. It would all be worth it in the end. Where is he? Where is that damned music coming from? The main ballroom. King. Out of my way then. With that, just that. I heard his footsteps move farther away. I took that as my signal. I left the 𝐊𝐢𝐬𝐑𝐞𝐝 workspace and shut the door behind me, only to be met with a slacked jaw made in the view of Luca's broad back rushing down the swirl of stairs. Grimacing, I held a finger to my lips, hoping she wouldn't expose the fact that I had been there. Luna, please, nobody must know that I'm here. I begged her with my eyes. Trust me on this. It would not be a good idea to tell anyone of my presence. She gulped and nodded. It'll be off then. I smiled gratefully and followed Luca's suit, heels heightening my presence and dress clinging to my body. As I made my way down the stairs following the scent of my mail, my hair flew behind me like a curtain in the wind. For the first time in a while, I was excited. So excited my smile ached and my heart bounced. Mom, if only you could see the fairy tale I was living. I thought to myself, if only you were here for me to pour my heart to. As I trailed 10 feet behind Luca's broad frame, I shivered. He grew. Masculinity oozed off of him in waves, avalanches of snow that would drown you if you got too close. He had a scruff, one that highlighted his cheekbones beautifully. Upon that it seemed he had grown impossibly taller. Maybe it was because I hadn't seen him in 5 days, but I was almost certain he changed. Suddenly, I took a step that was a tad bit too loud and paused. Luca had halted in his steps, ears perked up. I hid behind a column, one so tall it held the ceiling up. For fuck's sake, I heard him grumble. It's like 𝐿𝐤 here. His thoughts came into my own. It's like 𝐿𝐤 right under my nose. Whatever. My lips rose. He was adorable. I followed him once his attention was back on the music. I followed him until we reached the ballroom that suffocated with songs so lively 𝐿𝐤𝐳 danced with 𝐿𝐤𝐳𝐧. He burst through the doors and I made sure to go in right behind him. I was baffled. The instruments were playing themselves. Luca and I had the entire room to ourselves. Luca and I were finally alone in a place that was a bedroom. What? He ran a stressed hand through his chocolate locks of hair. What is this? I walked till I was right behind him, till my heat blended into his. I rose my hand and placed it on his back. He stiffened. It's me. He spun around, eyes connecting with mine. Blue meeting green. Nature meeting the robust sea. I felt my heart explode as his chest brushed against mine, as his warmth bled into me. The music was playing wonderfully, but his stare was robust. It made the music dim and the light shine on him. Honest? Is this what love was like? Was I in love? I stopped breathing once he rose his hand and cupped my cheek, unknowingly pulling me closer to him. 𝐿𝐤𝐬. He fisted the bottom of my hair. 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐿𝐤𝐬. Luca. I let out. Eyes glossing. He didn't hesitate to wrap an arm around the back of my throat and slam my lips to his. I felt like a phoenix. Like fire was blazing freely in my soul. Like it was swaying sensually in the cocoon of my heart. The music. The kiss. My hand sliding up his chest. This was love. Wasn't it? Luca was love. My face laying against his pecs and his chin laying atop my head. When the music would sizzle, he would spin me around and hold me effortlessly. You're beautiful. You're everything I ever imagined. You're more. He showered me with compliments on his birthday and only hummed when I would return the gesture. That was the day I realized Luca was a man just as selfless as I was, even though our paths contrasted greatly. As I heard his heart pulse underneath my cheekbones, I lifted my head off his chest and looked up at him. He was staring into the distance with eyes so content my heart skipped a beat. So I entangled my hands from his waist and pulled his head downwards to face me him. He smiled softly. What is it? Sweetheart, sweetheart, sweetheart. If it were anyone else I would have felt vile. But from Luca, it was art. You said you loved me for that. I mumbled. I did. He answered. Why did you bring it up? Did you? I paused, swallowing. Did you mean you loved me for that or? I meant that I love you. He interrupted. I love you for you. I love everything about you. My breath caught up in my throat. With you in free. And for that. I love you, I love you. I gulped, trying my best to hold back my array of tears. I love you too. I love you too. It came out like water. I love you so much more than I ought it to be. I know you do, I know you do. 𝐿𝐤𝐬, you don't need to say so. I swatted him across the chest, shattering the loveliness of the atmosphere. Luca cackled at my reaction, head falling backwards, exposing the length of his neck. Not thinking twice, I leaned forward and laid a wet kiss on the base of his throat. His grip on my waist tightened and he groaned. 𝐿𝐤𝐬𝐬. I looked up at him, sliding my arms back on their rightful place at his waist. His jaw clenched. "I infuriate you." He paused for a beat. "You do." I smiled. "Let's go back to my chambers." Luca wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling me to his waist. "And get you changed from that dress." I snapped my eyes to his. "Why?" "Because I don't know if I can control myself if I have to spend 5 more minutes watching you in that dress." My cheeks reddened as we walked side by side back to his chambers, my head leaning against his shoulder and his arm clinging to my waist. I thought about it, about how he had to control himself around me and how frustrating it was for him. If it were up to me, "You'd be mine now." He always said that. Whenever I'd lay my lips on his, he would say he wanted to make me his forever. The closer we got to his room, the faster my heart pumped. The closer we got to his room, the more desire spread throughout my core. Mine. He would be mine too. I wanted to make him mine too. The second we stood in front of his door, I coiled my arm around his wrist and pulled him into his room, locking the door behind me. Our souls became one that night. Our destinies intertwined. That night,